This morning, Yakubu Gowon has written a book. Will the millions of kids that died from Kwashiorkor during the Civil War be able to read the book? Will the people that were massacred in the Asaba massacre be able to read the book? Will the people who lost homes, limbs, future, possibility be able to read the book? Yes, the book is titled Duty and Allegiance to the Country. In allegiance to Nigeria, was a civil war the best way to have settled the impasse and the rivalry between two people? Should that war have ever happened in the first place? Today, as we try to say our own part of history, and Yakubu Gowon, we thank him for giving us his own part of history today. Although I've not read the book, but I've read some excerpts of it. As he tries to talk about, the internal workings and what happened. If this book, millions that died in that war, cannot read this book, then at least how can we ensure that we don't go to wars like that again? That's a food for thought this morning. Secondly, President Jonathan. I walked through the phone lines and I got some messages from my sources. They are saying the plot is actually thickening, that some people are pushing him. But I've got a word for President Jonathan today. Those that are pushing you were those that disgraced you in 2015. Were those that used the media arsenal against you. Those that are behind you now and are pushing you to run were those that didn't find you worthy in 2015. Were those that carried placards calling you all sorts of names. Were those that carried live goats and put your picture in front of that live goat. Were those that went on Twitter and said that if we would rather vote an animal or vote you, they will vote an animal and go home feeling fulfilled. President Jonathan, you have served and done your time. Do not let them push you into their game. I'm sure the clergyman told you this, and he told you much. Because these people are users. And when they are done with you, they'll discard you. Because they never had respect for you in 2015. And you see, they say time heals wounds, but with more time going by, their resentment for you has grown. But all they just see now is how to use you to be part of their game. President Jonathan, I know the pressure is much on you to run. They are pushing. They are doing everything. But please be careful. Don't listen to them. They'll lead you astray. The APC and its internal problems, we predicted it, we saw it coming. Today, consensus, some have stepped down in Lagos. Those that felt they were finally going to hold it out, they stepped down in Lagos. Yes, Vimba, you say there's been disagreements across, but I don't think anything will change. I think those that have the power will still use their power, and the weak will be left to cry, and probably when they go to the courts, they will not get anything out of it. But I'm not sure they're going to learn, because in the end, they will still fall for this bait in 2031. Until we build a democracy where true power belongs to the people and not the hegemons, Nigeria will never be free. I yield the floor.
Very quickly, I would like to congratulate General Yakubu Gowon and Avila Group, the publishers of the book, on the release of this book, My Life of Duty and Allegiance. Now, right from that title of the book is about 888 pages long, quite a tome. You see that it is about his service to Nigeria. And it is important to note, as has been pointed out yesterday, back page of this day newspaper, both by General Ibrahim Babangida and also General Theophilus Danjuma, with whom I had the privilege of sharing the page. I don't think so many columnists had that privilege to write the same day with two major generals who played a major role in Nigerian history. Now, those who have commented on General Gowon's book say, yes, it's anecdotal, but when you put it together, you get, a full sense of history and of his duty, his service during the 9 years that he was head of state of Nigeria. He was, for the benefit of many young men, a very young man in his 30s, 29, 37, thereabouts, when he led this country. And it was his commission to save this country from disintegration. And he stood up to be counted. So the Civil War, 1966, to 71 to 70, 71, was a major turning point for Nigeria. In fact, many people trace many of the problems we have had in this country to that Civil War. But General Gowon and his army, they were able to hold this country together. The other side, of course, was that after the Civil War, he preached no victor, no vanquished. And he introduced a policy of reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. But there is a lot of controversy around that, and many people have written their own versions of how the Civil War started. But I always say, repeatedly, that I don't think that the Civil War has ended. The Civil War has not ended because the reconciliation part of it is still an evolving project, and that's why you find people from the southeastern part of the country still talking about Biafra, still talking about the actualization of Biafra, because the most affected people in the Southeast, they have not forgotten. History is not about forgetting, it's about remembering. But of course, have we achieved reconciliation? We've done a lot in terms of reconstruction. Then, of course, the Southeasterners, they are also a bit disturbed about the idea of rehabilitation. That after the Civil War, their people were not properly rehabilitated. The £1 resolution, or was it £2, which generated a lot of concerns, properties lost, lives lost. I think that this country will still need a lot of healing. That's talking about, the Civil War and what Nigeria passed through during that time. But to the extent that General Yakubu Gowon held this country together with his team, and that he has remained committed, faithful to the Nigerian project, it sets a good example, an eternal example that cannot be forgotten in this country. And his book, I have not read it. The publishers, I called them, they said they accused me of trying to pirate the book. I just laughed. I felt offended. But I don't think with a PhD in criticism, I will go and pirate anybody's book. However, it is good that General Gowon has told his own part of the story. And he has a story to tell. And it is a story that should be of interest to not just students of history and political science or military studies, but the general public. And so, I think I'm still here. I will be very curious, and I would like to still read the book and do a fuller commentary. Now, to the Mr. Amaechi, Rotimi Amaechi. I think he granted an interview in which he said he's not in the ADC to be anybody's running mate, that he wants to be president. Well, that's a very legitimate ambition, but he still has to go through the process, and the party has to decide. But the other thing he has been saying in the last 2 days is that he doesn't think that Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar is electable. That after all, he started looking for the position of president since 1992, and that he usually boasts that he wins primaries. But Amaechi says it's not enough to win primaries. You win primaries, yes, but you lose elections. And he doesn't think that Atiku Abubakar is electable. However, let him focus on his own ambition and how he can get the ADC ticket if he succeeds in that regard. He cannot legitimately question Atiku Abubakar's ambition if he wants to be a president of Nigeria at 90, for as long as he's qualified. Then, of course, he can continue to try his luck. As for APC and their consensus arrangement, well, the Electoral Act allows for consensus or direct primaries. And we've seen in the last 2-3 days the kind of confusion that has created within the APC. And it is expected. As for the governors, I thought the arrangement was that governors will have automatic, tickets. The only exception in that regard is Rivers State. It is the senators, members of the National Assembly, they were not guaranteed automatic return. And you have seen how many of them have lost out, many of them even failing the screening process, and hence you have this confusion. But the APC also has an appeals committee, I think we should still wait to see what happens during that appeals process. After all, many of these members, even if they want to leave the APC, they will not be able to do so. As for the President Jonathan story, I say it's a developing story. President Jonathan himself has not spoken. And it's not true that those who pushed him out of office are the ones asking for him. He has grassroots support, both local and international. People who say, bring back our good luck. And in a sense, that is his vindication. I don't see APC members saying Jonathan should come back. The people who are asking him to come back are people who love him and who think that the APC will seem to have mismanaged the process and that they want President Jonathan to return to save the situation. The other part is that he can only do one term. So some people are also interested in that.
Absolutely.